Hey everyone, welcome back to Mini Bike Mike's Garage. Well, today is Saturday morning, July 20th, 2024. So that means what? We're 3 weeks, almost a month down the road from our Lake Michigan trip where myself, my son Brock, Isaac, and Jay Bill, we rode little 125cc powered Life and little Hondas, and we went 717 miles around Lake Michigan. And there's videos on it. I'll try and put those in a link in the description. So if you're new, just join the channel. You can go back and see those. Now, this is probably going to be the last video that I do on that trip. And I want to do it on the toolbox that I carried on the back of my bike, my Honda CT110. I have a video from when I packed this to kind of show you guys everything I was taking on the trip. I carried this and it had all the tools and all the extra parts and so forth that I wanted to take. So now we're 3 weeks down the road. I need to unpack this crazy thing, put my tools away. I've still never done that. It's still all in here. And I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and do a video and let's lay all this out again. And let's talk about, just real quickly, what I used and what I didn't use. If you watch the video, the ride video, we didn't have very many breakdowns. So I actually didn't use very much of this. But the items I used, I'm sure glad I had them. So I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to lay all this out. So that's everything I had packed in that box. And there is I tried to create a natural line right here. So that is the items I used on the trip, items I didn't use on the trip. And we'll just go over them real quickly just so that you know everything I have here. Fortunately, we never had to break open a first aid kit. No issues there. Inner tube, we had no issues with tires, so didn't have to use a compressor or any of the slime that we took for fixing flats or the tube. That was good. I just took a roll of electrical wire just in case I needed to rewire something. This was a box of light bulbs, random headlight, tail light, turn signal bulbs. I did use one turn signal bulb, a number 89 bulb out of that for Isaac's bike on the very last day. That was the only bulb we changed. This was a whole new stator setup. I can't even get the box open, but anyway, it was a whole new stator setup just in case we threw a chain and it broke the pickup on the stator. I wanted to make sure I had that. A brand new Nibby carb. A couple levers, brake or clutch or whatever. Fuel hose. I had a whole new throttle assembly. A bag of a whole new electrical kit if I needed it. Bungees, super glue, electrical tape, masking tape or Gorilla tape. Didn't need any of that. These are the tools I took that we never used. Obviously a few sets of pliers, some different screwdrivers, wire strippers, impact in case I needed to get that stator off of there. I took a 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17, and 19 wrench. And then I took from 14 millimeter down, I took it in sockets. I did have a couple little Allen wrenches here for the Kimimoto mirrors. That's the wrenches that you use to adjust those in case a mirror vibrated loose or something. We need to tighten those. Never used them. So in a nutshell, that's the things that I took. Glad I had each and every one of them. Didn't really use any of that, but like I said, really glad I had it. Now, on to the things here that we actually did use. Some of this I might have covered a little bit in another video, like these. These were the covers we put over the air cleaners on the carburetors during the rainy times, and they actually worked pretty well. Just slipped that over. I wound up, that's why the zip ties are out here. They were so big, I couldn't get any ones that were smaller for our type of air filter, so I just basically slid this over and almost put it over the whole carburetor and then took a zip tie and tied it around those. So those worked really well. I also took some Ziploc bags, and so like overnight, if it was rained one night overnight, so I actually took a Ziploc bag and then put over top of that just to kind of prevent any extra moisture from getting in there. And I'm glad I had them. Those worked well. Now let's back up a little bit. So a roll of wire, baling wire, my spring on my center stand took an exit at some point, so I wound up having to use this pair of side cuts and some wire to make a something to hold my center stand up while I was riding. Cable, this was just like a security cable, and I did use it a couple times. Before the trip, I was really worried about, you know, things getting stolen and losing bikes, and I certainly didn't want to get stuck up in the UP and my bike come up missing. So at the first couple days, I was kind of vigilant about locking things up, but that wound up being a non-issue. I really didn't need to do that, but I did have it and I used it. So hammer and some of these wrenches. The only thing we had to really do was I broke a chain, so I had to loosen up the rear axle on my bike, and that took a 17 and a 14 to do that. And then I used the 10 and the socket 10 for the axle adjusters to be able to loosen those up. So that's why those are out there. I wound up having to loosen Brock's axle when the bolt on the brake stay vibrated loose and his brake plate rotated. I had to loosen up the axle to put it back in position, and that just required the same exact wrenches. So I used a hammer just to tap out the axle. I went through a roll of paper towels. These got kind of wet. The box didn't get wet. Rain didn't get in the box. At one point, I put my wet gloves inside the box, and that roll of paper towels soaked up all the water from those gloves. Little bitty Phillips screwdriver, that's when I changed that turn signal bulb on Isaac's bike to get the cover off of that. That's why that's in there. I had to add oil a couple times to bikes, so that funnel came in handy for doing that, and it flexed, so to get around exhaust and doing those sorts of things. That's just a bag of, dump it all out, Mike. That's just a bag of hardware, and that came in handy when Brock lost the nut off of the brake stay bolt, and I was glad I had that bag of hardware to be able to put in there and fix that. Really, the biggest tool I was glad I was this little Chinese chain brake. If you watch the ride video, you know that I threw the master link on my chain, and I wound up putting a whole new chain on it, and I bought a extra long chain, and so this was the links that I had to take off of it to get it to fit my bike, and boy, was I glad I had that. So I tell you what, I think what I'm actually going to do is I'll get set up. If you've never used one of these, this was I'll put a link in the description. It wasn't very expensive, maybe even less than 15 bucks. I'll check that out here in just a second. Let me get set up, and I want to show you how this thing works. All right, so I looked this up. I paid $13 for this off of Amazon, and it's just a cheap Chinese chain brake, but it works pretty well. I don't know if you can see it. As I turn this part, there's a pin that comes out right here, and then this part moves independently from that pin. So we're going to back it all off. Let's layer chain in there. Let's just say we're going to do this link right here. Oh my God, it's hard to do it in the camera and see what I'm doing. All right, so I've turned this down to where it's put pressure. It's sandwiched the chain between the end here and it. And if you look in there, you should be able to see, if you look in this end hole, you can see the pin, all right, to know that you've got it kind of lined up right. Don't have to do it super tight. And then once you've got that on there, you just start turning this outside. And what it's doing is it's going to force that pin out and separate those two pieces. All right, there it goes. I can feel it. It's gotten easier now. There's, focus on it. Come on. So there's the pin. It's pushing the pin out of the chain. I might even have it far enough there. Oh, there, it pushed it all the way out. Now when you back this off, should be able to pull that apart and have 2 pieces of chain. Just like that. Works pretty well. For $13, it's pretty handy having your toolbox. I'll put a link in the description. All right, guys, there you go. In a nutshell, that's what I took, what I didn't use, what I did use. I know there's somebody out there going to say, well, you took way too much stuff, and you're probably right. But as I stated earlier in the video, it was a huge relief, took a lot of stress off of me knowing I had all this stuff. You know, I was responsible for having these other 3 guys be able to not only enjoy the trip, but be able to actually complete it. And if we would have had a breakdown and not had tools to be able to fix it in a timely manner, and they were running late, they all still worked, they needed to be back at work on Monday, you know, that was a lot of pressure on me to make sure that didn't happen. I wanted to make sure that not only did they have a good time, but they were able to complete it. We had just the right amount of breakdowns that was actually kind of added to the adventure, but yet it didn't slow us down in any way. So I'll put links in the description to tools that I used along the way, and I'll also put links to some of the videos that we took. Now, I know that there's been a few hundred of you that have joined or have subscribed to the channel since we took the Michigan trip, and make sure you go to my channel and not only check out the videos that I've posted, but along the way, I made some YouTube shorts at every stop and so forth. So if you haven't seen those, make sure you go back and look at those. And I think there might even be just some random posts so that you can check out some. Anyway, guys, have a great day. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.